Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Zwift Community Live broadcast of the KISS Europe race out in the Greater London Flat today. We've got 2 laps, super fast racing, about 18 seconds to start. I actually have a guest out here today from Dig Deep Coaching, actually, Stephen Gallagher. He's going to probably correct me on the pronunciation of the name, but Stephen's here with us. Welcome to the program, Stephen. Bringing in some racing knowledge, as well as to talk about the program he's going to be running alongside the Tour de France in association with Zwift. Stephen, how's it going there in Ireland? Kind of late?
Yep. In Ireland, yep. Very good, thank you. Yeah, all good here. So looking forward to a good race this evening.
Yeah, right on. Good to have you here. Great to have you here. And
Thank
we
you.
are off, it looks like, with some crazy fast racing. If you do want to interact with the program at all, questions or comments about what's going on with the racing in front of you, what Zwift is, what it's all about here. I know we are live on a couple platforms where people might be newer to the racing out on Zwift, over on Mixer as well as on Twitch. We are live on YouTube as well as, of course, as always, we are live on our Facebook, and you can bring in any questions or comments there as well. We'll make sure to bring in all your race predictions. If you do want to interact, here's how you do so. Martin, thanks for the comments over there, as well as Matt Brandt. We do see you over there. I'm new here. Matt's letting us know, which he's not new here at all. But real quick here, this is how you can do so. We'll go ahead and bring you right on in. There is the Get Interactive splash screen for you there to my... well, it's to my right in real life here, but there's all the places that you can interact, and we can bring in your comments on at Z Community Live, as well as on Facebook. They'll come up right on the broadcast. We're waiting for Nathan. What's going on here? Tom O'Galen in the house asking if we're waiting for Nathan. Nathan's just fine. I'll let everybody know Nathan is just fine. He's broadcasting. They think that I'm racing. He's broadcasting. So for some reason, they might think that I'm actually trying to race with them and stuck at 100 watts, but no, I'm not. We just have a watcher out on course so that we do not lose the race. So it looks like it is a mass start today. All the riders did start all together, and up at the front, he's just pathetic and slow. Really appreciate that one, Dafford Williams. A lot of banter actually in the game right now. Side of the Netherlands up at the front. We do have WG as well as Rodin. It does look like a solid group has showed up on the day. Ove Kaland, somebody who's made a lot of finals in real life. We're also looking through here. We are seeing Oxenham showing up from Team Experimental. Kiss Racing out there from Dafford Williams as well. So, Stephen, having you here on the program, you know, the eye that we're looking for from you here is about the watts, what we're, about the, I mean, you've analyzed a ton of data, it sounds like, for this upcoming program with the Tour de France and with Zwift. If you guys aren't familiar with what's going on with that, with Dig Deep Coaching, you can head on over. Is it digdeepcoaching.com? Is that right, Stephen?
Yeah. Yep. digdeepcoaching.com, or go to our Facebook page or Twitter to see links on, to our website and whatnot.
Okay, and so what's happening is they have put together a program that follows the entirety of the Tour de France, actually, each stage, and the critical moments in the stage are being replicated with workouts out on Zwift. And you've actually analyzed every stage of the Tour de France and winning moves that have happened over how long? And like, how did this all work out? And then let's talk about how that relates maybe a little bit to some of the moves that we see today.
Yeah, I mean, we spend a lot of time looking at data, power files from some of the biggest races in the world. Our company works with particularly Training Peaks. We do a lot of the race analysis for Training Peaks. Anybody who's seen the power analysis from the Tour de France last year, it was us doing all the data as well. We've worked with Cycling Tips, Cycling News all over the years. And we're very fortunate to have lots of information coming into us from some of the top riders in the world. So I think we've built a big bank of knowledge on how teams ride certain stages and how they ride different stages, and obviously one-day races as well, and also it's given us a great insight into the actual efforts that people are doing regarding at certain critical parts of stages. So, what teams are doing regarding keeping their riders out of trouble in early parts of stage, and then, certainly the effort that the GC riders are doing on the last couple of climbs of a big Pyrenean stage or whatnot. So, so basically we've spent a long time geeking out over numbers, and
that's what we like to do on Zwift, is geek out over numbers. You'll have that during the broadcast today. It's a little bit of geeking out. They'll be taking a right-hand turn, heading toward the square here in just a moment, and we're going to see some big numbers. So So you analyzed a ton of data from a ton of riders. You had the privilege to have access to a lot of pro riders' data, it sounds like, to get ideas of what they're putting out. Now, the workouts, as we see these guys are starting to head into the square here, they're going to have a little 3% gradient here. They're out on the Greater London Flat. We do see these efforts here. Exerham helping into this 4.8 watts per kilogram. MD from the BRT team here as well, starting to kick it up here, 5.6, 6.2 coming from Norden here. When it comes to the comparison, let's talk about a comparison maybe of the Greater London Flat course. Are you familiar with this course? The two laps, Greater London Flat. Forget the laps, because actually the stages that we're going to be talking about are going to be way longer. But when it comes to the critical efforts, is there a stage out there that might compare to the race that we're looking at right here as far as the profile goes a little bit, not the length, obviously, as well as maybe some of the, what kind of efforts are we going to be thinking about in the Tour de France versus, these guys are trying to make a break. Actually, that wasn't that serious of an attack. Greater London Flat, I think they're going to kind of keep it calm. Maybe more of a sprinter stage here?
Yeah, I think so. It's, people are smart. They'll try and keep it for a sprinter stage and try and play it a bit coy. But I think for a comparative, let's say stage 1 or stage 2, where we are trying to make stages either being with different personas. Just to let you know, is that we have made the stages into, so each stage you're sort of role playing a type of rider. So one day you're going to be the main sprinter of the team. The next day you're going to be the guy for the early break. Unfortunately for you, it means the start of your workout is going to be the hardest part of your workout. Exactly the same as
so like a Zwift race start, essentially, is what you're saying. I don't know if you've been. Have you raced on Zwift, Stephen, much?
Yeah, in the past, I've done a few. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I've been living in Australia for the last couple of years, so I've had the privilege of having a bit warmer weather, so I haven't had to sit indoors too much recently.
But so what you're saying is that at the beginning of the race for these flatter stages in the Tour de France, like we're trying to relate as much as we can today about the program that you guys are doing with the Tour de France and the virtual tour to what is actually experienced in those flatter stages, specifically for today, because it's a flat race. Up front is actually the hardest effort of the day. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
At least for the breakaway. At least for the breakaway is what you're saying. And what about the pack? What do they experience because of that breakaway?
So, the guys that are in the early breakaway, and, we have a number of stages that, you're going to be replicating an early breakaway rider, is, it's really top heavy, the efforts. So, we're talking sort of probably the equivalent of 10 watts per kilo, 20-second efforts, that sort of stuff. You're really going to 180 to 200% of your FTP, and again, from what we have seen, and again, this is completely replicated to data that's out there for everybody to see, is that it's really difficult these first sort of 20 minutes of the race, 15 minutes, and more times than not, it's for those guys in the early break, it's the first 5 kilometers or 10 kilometers of the race is actually the most powerful, is the hardest. So again, we're going to let you experience what that's like. It's not going to be pretty, I can tell you that, but it's going to be sort of full on with that. And what's really important is not only have you got the real sort of anaerobic efforts at the start, that you've got to sort of dig in and make, the early break isn't easy to get in either, especially in the Tour de France. It's really hard fought, so you got to make big efforts 5, 6, 7 times before you even get away. So we're going to show you what it's like to try and jump, and then once you get away, you still got to ride hard. So you're still riding.
You still got to hold that steady effort.
You got to get the gap out, and it's got to be. We're going to be doing 105%.
Okay, so now we're looking at a break that's trying to take place right here. Chubby Chase supposedly is out on Zwift. riding for the KRT team here. He's got 7 seconds over the group right now. The initial group did form. It's about a 20-second gap back to Motor here. The rest of the A's, we'll keep an eye on the B category as much as we possibly can as well, too. Rasmussen here making the lead group, it looks like, with about a group of 10 or so in this lead group for the B category. But up toward the front of the A's right now, Chubby Chase trying to get off the front here, KRT team. He kicked up to that 6 to 7 watts per kilogram real quickly. Looks like they're just allowing him to dangle out there a little bit, hold him within that 10-second gap. But, he threw down 6, 7 watts per kilogram in this KISS race here. You're talking a repeated effort over and over again. Obviously in the Tour de France, you've got 100 to 150 riders of the strongest in the world. What kind of effort do they got to throw down to make a break like this to get away? And you're not going to see a single rider really stay like this, I would think, in the first, 4 miles or so.
Yeah, no, and whenever you're looking at again from a watts per kilo perspective, I mean we had a great analysis from, I think it was Nate Brown in Amstel Gold this year. I don't know if anybody's seen Nate Brown's result in Amstel Gold where he finished top 10. And he was one of the first riders to make the early break. So basically, he'd done 260 kilometers in the, or maybe it was Lawson Craddock. Maybe it was Lawson Craddock. Sorry, I'm getting confused. But his power at the start of Amstel Gold was just, ridiculous. I mean, he was kicking out, 10, 12 horse per kilo.
Like over
20
and
seconds,
over and over again in order to make this happen.
And then they had done like 20 minutes. At about, he was riding normalized power 20, 30 minutes, 5.5, 6 watts per kilo after. The dude still had 240 Ks to go, and
so we're not trying to scare everybody. We're not trying to scare everybody, but these are going to be interesting workouts is what we're getting at here. They're going to be interesting workouts.
Yeah, and I think the difference in sort of what we're doing isn't, it's not, obviously it can help your performance, maybe somebody who decides to do every stage is going to be pretty tired after 3 weeks. But we're just not making a training session. We're making something that you're replicating a race, or you're replicating what these riders are actually doing. And it's to allow you to sort of experience that type of effort. So we're obviously making it relevant to your percentage of FTP. So again, it's relevant to you. And I think for different types of rider, be it a professional rider or be it a newbie to the sport, everybody has their strong points. Everybody maybe is really good at their anaerobic efforts and they can recover quick. Maybe you'll have the real diesel type guys, they're going to find that hard. They're going to benefit more of the sort of longer efforts that's going to be coming up, later in the week. So again, you're pushing you're pushing the envelope of what you're safe at as well. So
I think that's a cool concept of being able to have a more of appreciation. I think you and I were talking a little bit earlier about having an appreciation for what the riders are actually experiencing and doing at the critical moments. There's this idea in, and you see this right now, right? Where if you want to compare to what we're seeing in the race here right now, you have this chase group of about, it looks like 15 riders or so, somewhere between 10 and 15 riders. Kalen's in there, Young is in there. Some of these big hitters, they know they don't want to throw down any major watts right now to win this A race right now. Chubby Chase is off the front here, trying to stay away. He put in that kick up front, 6, 7 watts per kilogram. Now he's got to bring it back. It looks like he's going to be caught. He throws in the towel a little bit, but it's funny, like race situations are race situations, right? And sure, the numbers aren't the same or anything as far as like Tour de France, you're talking 10, 12 watts per kilogram over and over and over again. These guys were throwing down 7, 8, 9 watts per kilogram, over and over again to try and get away. But the idea of being able to experience and have an appreciation for what is happening on the screen, it seems like what you're aiming at, to give people an idea of like what's happening in the numbers actually changes your appreciation for what's taking place. Because I think a lot of times people are like, they're just riding around for 5 hours and their normalized power is really low for the whole entirety. I can do that, no problem. What the heck? When in reality, when you see the numbers for what they are at moments, I think that's part of the attraction for Zwift racing too, is when people see the numbers for what they are at different moments, those key moments in the race, they realize, whoa, this is a lot. I might not be able to do that.
Yeah. And that's the thing that we're obviously limited in the sense of, our workouts are going to be between 45 minutes and an hour and 15 minutes. The majority of them are in around the 55 minute to 1 hour mark. So we can only do so much to make it relevant. But even at that, even the fact that it's still only 1 hour long, I think everybody's going to come away from every stage going, "Damn, that was that wasn't nice." And then you got to think these dudes are doing it for. They're doing this after 4 hours of racing,
Now,
and they're
isn't there?
starting to ramp it up.
Now, speaking of day in and day out, so it looks like Motorhead here trying to get away, though. I want to make sure we focus a little bit on the race here today as well. Talk about what's happening with the program coming up here for the Tour de France. But Motorhead here actually on a TT bike. TT bikes, you can't actually draft on them. So it looks like he's just trying to set an insane pace at the front, knowing it's just a 2-lap race here out on Greater London Flat. And I think, he is, well, not just, it's actually a longer course. And maybe this was a tactical go here to say, if I can get away, it's a flatter course and I'm just going to be faster. And if you have the confidence that you're just faster and can throw down some big watts for the entirety of the race, it might be a good tactic, but the group is just so strong to chase this down. I'm not sure he's going to be able to stay away here. Roden here now trying to bring it back and get on that wheel. Now, the other riders can draft on Motor. They actually can draft on him, but he cannot draft on them. So he has to put out more power while he's sitting in the pack, actually, than the other riders because of that TT bike. So I think he's just saying, you know what? I'm just going to give it and see what happens here. See if I can break some people off the back of the group here. So, but it's going to be a huge effort. 5-7 here, Steven. How long do you think you can hold this for? We don't have the advantage of SoPower.com right now, but that's a big effort.
That's a big effort. He's obviously quite aerobic dominant. If he's sitting here consistently, he's between 5.3, 5.7, 5.3. So yeah, I certainly wouldn't want to be on his bike at the minute. I can tell you that. but yeah, and I think, somebody like that, he's obviously confident he can keep that power going, and he might as well certainly use that before leaving it to the end, or some of the other guys that are a bit more confident in their sort of VO2 or anaerobic capacity that can use it at the end. So use your bullets wisely, I say. So
yeah, I mean, I think his advantage right now is the TT bike and just making it fast, because he can't just sit in. I mean, if he did sit in, he'd still have to put out whatever they're putting out at the front, right? So doesn't gain that advantage. And then if they start attacking, he just gets in trouble. So I think he's just trying to make it fast. Maybe he's also just in it for a workout. A lot of times if I knew I had a 20-minute effort or a 30 or 40-minute effort I had to put in, like I had a day where I want to test myself in a TT situation, and it is a race that allows TT bikes to be used, I would jump on that TT bike, and just having the other racers there amongst you puts that competitive spirit in you to make you want to push the entire time. Because a 40-minute to an 1-hour effort TT solo on your trainer, I mean, that's not super enjoyable, but you can at least have the motivation of these other riders to force you to push yourself to your limits.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you also have the added benefit of the enjoyment, thinking that everybody else is suffering as much as you. So
the enjoyment of everyone. I love that. That's a good comment there.
Yeah, that's what you gotta. Yeah, take the positives.
So we actually do have, let's see here, a couple more coming on in here. Stephen Young is racing the Python. Matt Bratt coming on in with a few of the comments. Let's look through some of the Facebook comments here quick as we are looking through some of the racing as we're getting into the half a lap section or so. Jasper is in the house from Real Country, I'm being told. Good to see Jasper hanging around. Tim Fulford in the house as well. It sounds like Eric Min stopping in, giving us a go, go, go. Eric, good to see you in the broadcast today, hanging out. Greatest London Flat, maybe that's where we're at. I'll have to double check. I thought it was Greater London Flat, but maybe did they just take a turn to go uphill suddenly? So perhaps there was a mistake on the route here. We'll have to take a look and see. I thought we were on Greater London Flat. I'm going to check the Zwift events here real quick. Actually, I think I can jump into my event that I'm in on my Zwift Companion right now. I think they just found themselves going up Box Hill and were not maybe expecting it, unless I got it incorrect here. Now, that's going to be a big change. We thought we were on a flatter course, but up front, that's how we talked about it. So is there a comparable course to something that has Box Hill in it? for
Yeah.
the Tour de France, actually, Stephen, because Box Hill's got this 5-minute puncher. Is there a succession of 5-minute punchers over and over again, or something along those lines in the Tour
Yeah,
this year?
there's quite a few. I think the first sort of stage that you might be comparative will be stage 5 into Quimper. It's really really lumpy. I think a lot of people haven't talked about it so far in the Tour de France. It has about I think 3 or 4 Cat 4 climbs, and in Brittany where a lot of the stages are earlier on. I was fortunate enough to live in Brittany for about 4 years as a under 23 and as a junior, and the terrain there is just really lumpy. Even the non-categorized climbs will come thick and fast. And on that day, I think we have a lot of climbs between sort of 3 and 7 minutes. And that
Oh,
particular stage
so
actually
what? Okay,
on
and you've
stage
raced
5.
professionally for like 8, 9 years. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. So I
And
raced
what in a
mostly.
pro peloton situation? So a lot of times, this kind of a climb that we're looking at right here, this 5, 6,
Yeah,
7. Well, it's going to be about 6 to 7 minutes for these front runners, and I've noticed in the races, so we are seeing a couple falling off here. Daffin said, "Forget it, I'm not going up this thing that fast." Roden Oxenham trying to hang on. He's like, "Nope, done. Silly numbers." Kalen here trying to hang on. It looks like he's able to make it here. The cream of the crop is starting to rise to the top here, but I've noticed in the pro peloton, not a lot of times, the level is so close that
even.
these
Yeah,
don't really break things apart. Now, is that because they're holding
yeah.
back, or is that because everyone's so even? I would get the feeling that maybe they're just like, it's not worth it, and we're trying to play smart. Or am I incorrect there?
There's a wee bit of both. I think the majority of it is the fact that the difference in the riders from the lower end of the peloton to the top end of the peloton is so small now. You obviously have these, especially when the races go over 220 kilometers. Then you've got the guys that are really, that come into their own, the real classic specialists. But especially the shorter races that are, 180, 200 Ks, where, the majority of the pros are quite confident in, keeping that performance going over that time. The fitness differences are really limited among the guys. So, everybody's so close, and it just makes it so difficult to make that, them real big gaps and them changes in the group. Technically as well, I think things have changed slightly over the years. The UCI points, the World Tour points. People are maybe a wee bit more cagey as well than potentially they were sort of 15 years ago. But yeah, but then let's look at a stage race like the Tour of the Basque Country that has a splatter of 20-minute climbs, 15-minute climbs, and they're just going full gas, and the race is totally basically in bits, from the first climb. So there is the exceptions as well. So
Yeah. And then, well, I mean, there's those classics that everybody's really gunning for, and they kind of just throw the chips on the table. I think
yeah,
a little bit
yeah,
earlier on, and they know it's a one day. They know that's it. I think in the Tour, it's a little bit more like we need to reserve, and those who can actually go for it are going to be those who have been given a free card. Hey, you know
yeah,
what? You can play a role a little later in the race, or you'll do work tomorrow, the day after. We'll give you a free
yeah.
card. Try and get that stage win. Put the team out there. A lot of times. So I think that may be why a lot of times you don't see crazy attacks on those earlier stages, right? Now, I've heard people
Yeah.
say, I've heard a couple of people say, we need more punchy stages
Stages.
like that
Yeah.
in order to not just have team sky domination or this to team domination or whatever it might be that's really specialized in the big epic days. You know what I mean? Like big epic days where it's like a little shorter and a little punchier, and we might see a more interesting situation earlier on in the Tour, because a lot of people are like, I'll tune in once things really start heating up. And are we seeing anything like that this year, Stephen, or not really?
Yeah. So yeah, we actually have I think the shortest stage ever in the history of the Tour de France, or one of the shortest stages this year, is in the Pyrenees. I think it's 67 kilometers long. If you maybe
67 kilometers? That's it?
yeah, it's like the shortest, or 68, or maybe I'm going to
I
get
mean,
this
it's just like a
completely wrong.
cyclocrosser's course. Like, just go. I mean, just
I'm
like, I mean, that's like a mountain bike race for me. Like a 2 hour, not even.
60, 65 kilometers long, stage 17 on Wednesday, the 25th of July,
It's
to
gonna go
be exact.
bonkers. It's gonna be
So yeah,
absolutely bonkers.
if anybody wants to take a look at the profile of it, believe me, it's not going to be a very enjoyable 65 kilometers. So,
Oh,
I
really?
mean, I mean, it comes off a stage of 218 k's as well that finishes on Bagnères de Luchon, which is in the Pyrenees, and that's a big day the day before. So, yeah, 65 k's off the bat. You get a lot of guys that are afraid of the time limit on them days because they go off the bat so early on, and it goes obviously in percentage of the winner's time. You know, people laugh at it, but you will get unfortunately guys that are maybe suffering coming into the last week of the tour. That's going to be a big obstacle for them.
Now, speaking of punchy here, real quick though, we want to make sure these boys are attacking up and over the top of Box Hill. 6:27, about 27 seconds slower than the fastest times we usually see in these KISS races, actually. So they're taking it not easy or anything. I think they kind of calmed it down a little bit up front and then attacked on the last half of it. So they lost some time on the first half of the climb there. We saw about 9-10 watts per kilogram over that kicker, though.
Yeah.
It was able to make a little
Yeah.
bit of break there, and it looks like Gannon here is now off the back with an aero power up, trying to get back on terms. I did just see a message here coming from Quentin Lefay, actually, from France. He's letting us know, like you said, 3 climbs, stage 17, going to be insane. That's something about groups
Yeah.
of 20. What was this, Quentin? Stage 17, 65K with 3 climbs. Riders start on a grid by groups
Yeah.
of 20 determined by GC. Wait, what?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like kind of like staggered starts in Zwift racing.
Totally.
Like, are we getting like what's going on
Yeah.
here? Is this taken
Yeah.
from the Hammer series a little bit or something? Like, what's going on?
Could be. Yeah. So they're starting to grid them. I think maybe for the pre-stage sort of vamp and whatever. But what you got to remember is on especially the sort of longer days, there's a neutralized section of maybe 5 kilometers or 7 kilometers to go to the official flag drop. So, no matter what way they're gridded at the start, within a kilometer, it's all mumbled up to an extent. So, but yeah, I think it's just a bit of flamboyance maybe at the start to help people.
So they're just in like grids of 20. They're not actually separated by like staggered start or anything. Like I was a little confused by that. So it's just like they place them in grids by GC, remove the grid, like you would, like, here's your spot. Like I went into some UCI races and they would put you, like, they would literally at the mountain bike races, because the mountain bike races are the start's so important. They literally just draw chalk and put your number on the ground. And they're like, here's your box. Go in the box.
Yeah.
So maybe something similar.
My box is normally at the back in mountain bike races, so I know where to go.
Well, that kind of makes sense though on GC. If it's a shorter race, maybe that's kind of what they're thinking a little bit, is like the start is really, really going to matter if people are attacking right from the get-go. So if people want to make this shorter race, I mean, the break might just, like, if you're at the back, you might not even know the break went. You know what I mean? So,
well, a lot of times that's right.
I think that might have something to do with it. It's kind of actually, that's very relatable. Actually, maybe the UCI was actually thinking like, well, let's just do it like we do with the mountain bike races. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, the thing is with unfortunately, the guys that they're going to grid at the front, which I'm assuming is going to be the guys higher up in the GC, they're going to be the guys completely not going at the start. So
not
it's
interested.
The guys
not interested at all.
They're the ones that I don't want to be here. I just really want to. Can I go to the back, please? Put my hand up. Sorry. Can I go further back? But yeah, I think it's more the pompous at the start. So
that's an interesting point, actually, because all the guys who will have the free cards to go on that day are going to be at the back, and they're going to be wanting to work their way to the front on that day. Yeah. It's going to be mayhem.
So. Yeah, but like I said, the starts of the stages normally have a neutralized section. It's a rollout. It's maybe 5 kilometers or something of behind the red car before the flag drops. So it kind of evens itself out by that point. So, but yeah, there's a lot of stages that are going to be real punchy. They're going to be probably environment. Hopefully. Well, not hopefully, but maybe a bit of rain, a bit of wind is going to play havoc, certainly in the first early days in the Vendée region. I think stage 2 is quite exposed to go along the coast. If they get the wind on their left shoulder coming from the west coast, the bunch is going to be in pieces. So they, that could play as big a part in the race. As much as
It'd be interesting to have some headwind actually here. It's almost kind of like what the power-ups kind of simulate a little bit here. We are seeing Dreisen here going up the front 2 seconds or so. I believe they're going to have another lap to go here in a minute, and they are on the Greatest London course right now, I believe. I'm not sure what course they're there. I mean, it's like. They went all the way around the Greater London Flat, and then they headed up Box Hill. I forget which course that they're actually on right now, but the term on here, riding for Specialized, it looks like you're trying to make a little bit of attack. There were some crazy numbers going up and out of the top of the underground, but it looks like Motard here on the TT bike wasn't able to hang on through that 5.5 to 5.8, wasn't able to get the gap. On the uphill, it looks like he was dropped, I believe, but it is a lead group here. It looks like of about 10 riders or so. Termon here still off the front, 6.1 watts per kilogram or so, 2 seconds up from Dreisen. We'll see if we can hold on to it. And it looks like Gannon here along with Mueller, Noreen, 3 watts. Now these are some serious efforts here. I mean, comparative. I mean, you rode in the Pro Peloton for a while. What kind of numbers are these A racers putting out? I think a lot of people ask that question. Like, man, this is like elite racing. A lot of times I do say, look, just because you don't have a pro contract doesn't mean that for shorter periods of time you can't put out serious numbers, right?
Absolutely.
There's just a reality of like, a lot of times the difference between pro and not pro is you're not paid to ride your bike, one, and then number 2 is how long you can ride before you can do these kinds of efforts. Yeah. Like, there's a lot of people out there who can do shorter stuff like this.
Yeah, I mean, the difference for what we see, especially on the mountain stages where we get, you get data coming in of guys doing, 5.5 watts per kilo for, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and they're doing it already after 180 kilometers. That's the difference. So it's their fatigue resilience. It's how they are able to, utilize lactate, and how they're able to obviously, do them repeated efforts time and time again. And that's, a lot of the characteristics that sets the guys apart from, the normal, let's say, elite rider, big amateur or whatnot. The pros are able to do that time and time again, and they're able to do it after 200 Ks. I think that's the real of it. And if you look at some of the guys here, I mean, we're going over Box Hill there, they're sticking out 10 watts per kilo, 11 watts per kilo, kicking over the top of it. I mean, that's very similar to, again, Liège-Bastogne-Liège or Amstel Gold, how they're kicking over the top of them the last sort of 30 seconds. They're powering over the top, trying to get a gap, but they're doing it 25 times, and they're doing it, for 6 hours, 7 hours, or whatever. So, when we're in this environment, when it's it's an hour long or whatever it may be, again, things are pretty close. Things are narrowed down between amateur riders and professional riders. So.
Yeah, and if these guys did have the time and the days, a lot of these guys, I mean, they probably do have the genetics a little. If you do see that kind of power from them, this is an elite group up at the front from a worldwide platform that is whittled down to 10 guys on the day. You know what I mean? So I mean, we see a lot of criticism out there. Oh yeah, crazy numbers, whatever. But I mean, there is a reality of like, if some of these guys had the time, they would be able to. And, some of these guys are pro riders. If you looked at their Strava, some of them show up and you didn't even know, oh, that was a professional rider. That was a professional rider. You happen to be riding with somebody at the front end of this group that's getting their intervals in for the day because it's motivating to do Zwift.
Yeah, and I was just listening to the Zwift podcast there yesterday, and they were interviewing Matthew Heyman, who I think his coach from Michelin Scott was interviewing him on the Zwift podcast, and he was talking about him doing double days in his training, and he actually asked his coach to do double days on Zwift because it was going to increase his motivation. I haven't got a client, nor have I ever in my career asked to do double days. I've normally been pushed and shoved to do it. So, that shows the motivation, obviously, of coming in, doing these sort of workouts, getting into the Zwift races and getting into the workouts. So, yeah, these guys are, and he's using this, at altitude. He's in Andorra. He's doing maybe 4 hours in the morning, as he said. Then he's kicking in a race that evening of an hour. So yeah.
Yeah,
just watch out for Heyman.
You watch out for Heyman. Watch out for Heyman. Just watch out for Heyman. Speaking of watching out for people, he might jump out suddenly out on Zwift. I can see there. Speaking of watch out for, so Matt Brad says, who does Steven think I should pick up for my fantasy cycling team for my GC Hope? Oh, well, we were talking before. I you might like this, but I actually picked Richie Port actually for my GC. It might not be, and it was a heart pick. I was talking on the weekly windup on Wednesday. Me and Chris were having a chat yesterday, and I said, it's a heart pick. Maybe on the numbers, maybe some people would say no. I think on his career trajectory and what he really desires for in his career, I want to throw it down. Plus, locally, BMC, the Aquids family's local here. I ride with them here on some of the morning rides. So I was like, Port. I'm in for Port, but it's a heart pick. So maybe not in the heart pick. That might not be what Brad's looking for, because Brad's actually local. He was a local, not anymore. And we used to ride together on the same ride. That same ride, actually. Actually, the connections are all coming together. And why aren't you picking Port? Brant, why aren't you picking Port? That's the question. No. So what's your GC picks? I mean, let's hear your ideas here on the GCs.
So first of all, anybody who goes and puts money on, from what I say, I'm taking no responsibility.
Yeah, full on dividends paid. Dividends paid. That's what
that's different if you get money. Yeah, you can. I think because there's not a whole lot of mountaintop finishes. There's a lot of descents coming off a lot of the major climbs. So you've got guys like
so no Port. A lot of descents. So you're saying no Port. That's
but he's improved a lot. I mean, I think, to be honest with you, the level that he's at, that's not going to be too much. He has improved. If you've seen him in the Dauphiné last year, he's really come on a lot. But I think somebody like Bardet maybe that can descend really well. He's got a bit of a good kick on him. He's super aggressive. He's got a really good team. Him, but in my heart of hearts, I don't think he's going to win it. But what I do think is that Valverde will end up the team leader of Movistar. Yeah, because if you look at the stage 9, which is the cobble stage, there's 9 sections of pave, and having just looked through the data and the analysis of it, I just realized, man, this is Paris-Roubaix. And you see in Dwars door Vlaanderen at the start of the year, I think he was 10th or 11th. He was finishing with Greg van Avermaet, and on a really, really bad day. So he's going to, I think, cement down his leadership for Movistar on that day. I don't think Quintana is going to be there. I don't think. So
you think it's changing up this year a little bit as far as like pure climbers, a race? I mean, at least at some sections where within a team, there's going to have to be a little bit more diversity. Is that what you're getting at there?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Well, I think with Movistar, it's a really.
Hold on one second. We've got some crazy attacks here. Also, and I don't want to take over. I don't want the Tour de France to take over this guy's race too much. as Gannon here is going off the front here, that was a crazy attack. He must have thrown down about 10 watts per kilogram. At the same time, I think they saw Motor coming back. This guy is just train. He's a freight train. 5.2, 5.3, 5.7, and the motivation is there now. Now 172, we saw him hovering around 170 for a long time, so I think his over threshold are right around that, I can barely hold for 1 hour straight for that heart rate. 172, I have a feeling he's going over right now to try and catch back on. But the catch doesn't matter because he's on that TT bike, so he's just got to keep it consistent, it looks like. Dreisen here, not with the counter. Now this is a little bit of an uphill grind out of this I don't know, what do you call this thing here? This overpass. Out of the overpass here. And Dreisen now able to close down that attack there from Gannon. Okay, real quick. BRT, KRT all together here. We've got Innovation there. Has the Python made it? It looks like Phillips is in here from Innovation. Chubby Chase has made it as well. Team Mueller from R2 is in the house, coming out of Germany here. With that German team here, looking solid. Rue Riders right now on the Tron bikes. Look at all the Tron bikes here. Lots of them. showing up on the day. Now for GC, we're talking GC. Do you know any of these riders, Steven? And then like I could actually, what's funny is I know these riders enough because I commentate on them enough that I can tell you Phillips has got a sprint. The guy can sprint. He's kind of like a Sagan in this pack right here. Mueller's got a sprint as well too. I'll be watching out for him. Kalen's a climber. He wants to break it off when they hit the climb over Box Hill again. It's going to be all about Kalen getting away and then holding onto his gap on the downhills, right? Motor here, full on TT. Tony Martin's off the back. He got dropped in the climb. He's got to come back. What is going on here? So, you know, what is the favorable situations? What are the favorable situations? You know, you were talking about the profiles, how maybe it's a little bit different this year in the tour. You know, I'm talking about what these guys are specializing in and the diversity that's going to be needed for that GC contention to get the win. How has it changed up this year in the tour? You were saying the pave.
Well, you know, I think the pave I think is the big you know, I think it's the big focal point, certainly in the first week, the first 8 days of the tour. I mean, that's going to set a precedent on how riders are going to race the stages in the Alps. So, you know, guys like, I was going back to Valverde, who, you know, I predict is going to finish that stage pretty high up. He's probably going to take over the complete leadership of Movistar, I would assume. And then that means, you know, he's got the free reins for everybody. So you've got guys like that, and you know, the physiological demands of riding across the pave is very different to that of what they're going to be doing in 2 days after that, going in the Alps and, you know, tackling them big climbs. So, you know, you're talking about maybe lower cadences, you know, the short power, you know, certainly being able to recover between sort of repetitive efforts of, you know, 3 to 5 to 6 minutes, short times before it. You know, so that's a lot different to what they're going to be doing as they come over the the bigger climbs of, you know, 10, 20-minute threshold efforts. So that's going to prove difficult. And even in Brittany, on stage 5 and stage 6, you know, you've got a lot of 5-minute climbs, 6-minute climbs, which are completely different again. So you've got like the likes of Dan Martin, who, you know, is probably one of the best in the world at that sort of intensity and them sort of efforts. And again, what a lot of people don't realize is Dan Martin has a phenomenal sprint. You know, he is probably one of the best, you know, 30-second 1-minute powers in the pro peloton, especially if it's going up hills. Okay. I mean, you know, you just look at his, you know, just look at his results in Liège and Flèche Wallonne and the Amsterdam, and on top of the other races that he's done. Anybody watched the Dauphiné this year, and like he was, you know, practically doing the last kilometre just out of the saddle, full gas, with very few people able to hang on to him. So, you know, he's potentially going to do well, and you know, in Brittany. So, a bit like what these guys are about to do up Box Hill. So, anybody who wants to try doing a 6 or 7 watt per kilo effort there for 3 minutes, please go ahead.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Yeah, that's insane. Now look at Motor here now coming back though. 5.4 watts per kilogram coming from him. Kalen's like, nope. Not going away from me, jumping right back on terms with that 30 miles per hour currently that they're doing out on course here. Motor here 5.3 still on the front though. He wants to break this apart now. Now, you know, they are 42 minutes of racing in. You know, this is where a little bit of endurance starts to come in for these racers, because they've done Box Hill, the initial attacks. There were definitely some attacks going through any of these little uphill grinds. They've had to respond a lot. They start getting a little bit tired at this point, and you know, anybody who's been playing it smart up to this point is maybe going to have an opportunity. I've been watching Rue Riders, not really too many attacks, just following. Turnman went off the front for a little bit earlier, but you know, there's the GC contenders, the contenders that are looking for the wins. They're gonna be looking for those opportune spots right now that we you know, where they will be able to shine. Kalen, not so much of a, I mean, he can climb like crazy. I'm not sure he's a straight puncher though, so we'll have to wait and see. They're still got a little while before they hit Box Hill, and I think Motor is just trying to, you know, put in as much as he possibly can here to try and get a gap, because I have a feeling on the uphill he might struggle to hold that 6 watt, you know, 5 to 6 watts per kilogram that they're going to be looking for on that uphill. But you know, he's proven so far that it's pretty consistent from him. This is a crazy effort on this TT bike.
This is fast. I think probably at, you know, they're 44 minutes in. I'm assuming like a lot of guys are probably going to be sitting around maybe 90% of their FTP normalized power at this point. So when it comes to this next climb, a lot of times it doesn't come down to just the guys that are raw power. It's those that are have real good recovery, and those that are able to sustain a solid effort and being able to then if it was match to match of their anaerobic ability compared to somebody else, just off the cuff, they mightn't be so good. But doing it after 45 minutes of 90% of your FTP is a different scenario. So
that's something to
you
chat
see
about. I think a lot of people don't understand what the base training is for, right? Like a lot of people new to the world of cycling and maybe Zwift and intervals, they think the most important stuff is the intervals, the hard stuff, the stuff that I want to get good. Because in their minds, they're thinking this is the stuff that wins races. This is the stuff that shows off. This is the stuff that makes things happen. Where the understanding that you were just talking about was like, well, the most important part actually for being able to even do those efforts is whether or not these guys have repeatability from the endurance they have built up. And that endurance isn't necessarily built up from doing those efforts over and over again. Sure, you do have to practice doing them over and over again, but actually before you can even do that, it was the base training, right, that you had to put in so that you have that repeatability.
Yeah. And there's a bit of a misconception as well as what people call as base training or base fitness. Whenever I talk about base fitness, I talk about your ability to sustain an effort for whatever period of time, be it 1 hour to 3 hours, without having a big fatigue decline. And doing that, being able to get to an optimal level doing that.
What we like to call decoupling in coaching, right? Without the heart rate going way out and the power coming down, kind of a thing, or the power staying the same and the heart rate going way out, essentially.
Yeah, and keeping the percentages as even as possible. But different people respond in different ways, of course, to different types of training. But what is really interesting is being able to do that and maximize that decoupling rate or your fatigue rating doing different types of interval training. But interval training isn't always full gas. I want to vomit at the end of it. I've got lactate coming out of my ears. Interval training can be, adjusting your torque, adjusting your cadence, all that sort of stuff that we call interval, or we would maybe call sort of more technique training. It is intervals, but it's more technique. And that brings around, big performance gains in the long term as much as just going out and smashing yourself at 1 minute efforts. So, but definitely fatigue rating is massive. And especially for those guys that are wanting to, race a bit further and do more. But certainly it comes into play really after at least 30 minutes or 40 minutes of hard riding. That comes into play. So
my most important training that I would do up front was always, what is that number I can always come back to? And I want to make sure it's as high as I possibly can get it for 3 to 5 hours before I really knew I was ready to even start my intervals in my season. For me, at least, that's a lot of times where I would go to. And that, this is obviously, you guys, this is not like, that was me getting ready for professional, type racing. But I mean, whatever I would always say, whatever my event that's coming up, if I want to be at the very front of it, I would double the time of the event at least and say, this is the minimum of what I have to be able to hold. You know what I mean? I try and get that number higher and higher and higher and higher. And that'd be the way that, I think about my base training. I always try and over sharpen my tools. If my tools are over sharp, then when it comes time to do the job, it's a piece of cake, right? Like a lot of times people are like, this is what I need to hold for this race or this race or this race in order to win. And I'm like, that means you want to train to be able to hold 10% more than that. Or you know what I mean? Because you want to be more than prepared for those situations. Now before we get into that though, we'll come back to that because these guys are about to show whether or not they are prepared. As we've got Gannon here, Termon, Phillips here trying to make his way to the front. We've got R2, we've got Norden here. Paceline Design sitting in a little bit too as well. It looks like 290 watts. Kalen, we did say that he was a favorite on the climb. We'll have to see if he's going to show himself off as a favorite here. 48 minutes in. Motor here still at the front, and we said he's going to have to get away and hold in order to even come close to winning this race because he's on that TT bike. Everybody else is going to be able to work against him in a pack and then sprint it out at the end. And this guy TTing this entire time, these guys have been like going hard and then resting, going hard and then resting. They got a lot in reserve where he's just going to be able to hold at a steady pace and not be able to go over like you're seeing here from Chubby Chase, I would think here, Stephen.
Yeah. I mean, this is a real important time for those of you that are maybe starting to wobble a wee bit at 6 watts per kilo, you're going to have a couple of minutes to go to get over this climb. So, um, you want to probably, if you're starting to wobble now, you maybe want to back off a wee bit and just hope that you come back later on, because the other side is that you dig far too deep into the reserves now, and that
you don't wobble, you fall gone. Off. It's not wobbling anymore. It's just you're off the bike altogether here. We got Phillips from Innovation. Exactly. We see the feather power-ups popped here. Dryson's there now still. Innovation, though, is that 2 riders from Innovation? Yes, Young is in there as well. Stephen Young now kicking a little bit. Yeah, giving about 6. Now they're backing off a little bit, though, it looks like. So it looks like they're giving 6 and then, okay. And that's a lot of times how these climbs go, right? Where it's like 6 plus, see if you can break it, and then come back to a little bit of recovery, and then go again. And then back, and then
and that's again. The time if somebody can do 7 watts per kilo, 8 watts per kilo for 10 seconds, that's the time to hit them. Whenever that just backs off that wee bit. If you're a little bit fresh, yep, definitely give it a dig now. But just bear in mind, you've got another 5 or 10 minutes of 5 watts per kilo over the top to try and hold.
It's going to be difficult for sure. Going to be difficult for sure if you can't, if you don't have confidence. That was always the question in my head a lot of times is, and how important confidence is in these situations. Like there's something about not second guessing yourself too much. Like I would, there's this fine line of like, I will not second guess myself and go all in. And then there's just like caution to the wind. And next thing you know, you're not wobbling, you're falling off the bike. Right. So like there's that line of knowing what's there and knowing in the training, what kind of confidence you can build in the numbers you can throw down, I would think.
Yeah. I think people have confidence in different ways. Some people are very confident in their numbers and very confident in the power and training, but when it comes to a competition setting, they're actually quite the opposite. For different reasons, through stress or through nervousness and whatnot. And what I would say, and again I would say it to all the guys here, there's only one way to find out if you can do it, and there's only one way to really find out and to build your confidence. Is to give it a go. Throw a grenade in there, see what happens. And you do it that many times, it will pay off eventually. So
sometimes you surprise yourself and you ride out of your skin. I mean, sometimes once in a while it pays off. You hit that 10% race where it's like, oh, something was just on today, and bam, and you have a breakthrough workout, and that builds confidence. And always coming back and the whole Rocky thing. It's not how hard you can hit, but how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. You know what I mean? So like, even if you do fall off, even if you do get hit. Now Young here and Phillips, though, they're starting to make the hits here. Dryson here trying to respond. It looks like 6.4 watts per kilogram. But I think they know this is the moment here. You're halfway or a little more than halfway up the climb, and they know they can hold somewhere between 5 and 7 over the top here, maybe 5 and 6 over the top here. They can continue to attack and Innovation here, trying to make that break. 4 seconds, and now Dryson, it looks like that's a gap. I'm not sure that's going to be coming back anytime soon. With 2 teammates off the front here, Stephen, this is definitely a situation of where people are going to be worried, I would think.
This is a time that they've pretty much got to commit. At that scenario, they've made this effort to get away. They've been doing 6.5 watts per kilo, you've got to commit. Basically, there's no 2 ways around it now. So, probably over the top, they're going to have to be riding, I would say, consistently at about 5 watts per kilo to try and open that. Trying to open that gap a bit further to 10, 12 seconds, maybe by a couple of minutes over the top. But there's
no
coming back.
Go at this point. Said enough is enough. There isn't a serious attack trying to close things down, so it is going to be a pack with Dryson here being chased by them in no man's land for him. That's going to be a different situation. 8 seconds. If this backs off a little bit from Innovation, Dryson might still be in this, but he's going to have to really put down some serious power here to close this down. Maybe keep it consistent through here on the splatter section, and then once that last kick over the top, there's that last punch at the top of Box Hill. That might be an opportunity right there. Yeah.
I mean, but it's only an opportunity if you're 5 seconds off the back, 6 seconds off the back. If you leave it too far, then you might have a kick, but you're not going to make up enough ground to get back into the pack, so get a bit of drafting. So, it's going to be difficult to bring that. If I was the guys behind, I would probably wait until we, get together a bit and settle down and try and not last for 5-6 minutes. Really give it everything. Because
the
otherwise,
thing is, if this was a team back here, if this was a team, it'd be a little bit different. But this is not a team. They're going to have some infighting, and because the reality is, you could have a situation where there is a team, and someone's willing for 1 minute straight to sacrifice themselves at 6 watts per kilogram, and then someone else is willing, and someone else is willing, and someone else is willing, and one guy's sitting in that's going to win it. But they're going to be like looking at each other like, you're going to do it? You're going to do it? I'm not going to do it. Who's going to forget that? I want 4.
As the gap goes out, they're going to be less and less willing to commit. So, yeah.
And it looks like Steve Young here, a little bit of attack up onto the top now. 8 watts per kilogram coming from Phillips here. Now, I wonder if there's going to be any love lost between the teammates here, as they might start fighting each other a little bit for the W here. Dreisen here, 18 seconds out. Don't think it's going to happen. I think he's actually going to go back to Motor. Motor here looking for that 4th place here on that TT bike. He might be able to pull this off. He might even catch Dreisen and hold down for 3rd place. This guy is absolutely killing it. And I actually recognize this name. I have a feeling that this might actually be a professional rider. Jay Motor, I do recognize this name. I've seen him in the U.S. If I got a mod over at the Mixer channel, I am watching that chat. Let me know if you guys do have a link for me, and I'll look it up here. So good to see Chris up in the house, as well as Rogers. A bunch of others here chilling, it looks like. A lot of questions, actually. Zwift, this is, wow, we got a lot of people asking, what is this? So this is Zwift, massive multiplayer online game in which these are real people all battling each other on actual bikes, actually, right now, hammering away. This, real quick, I'm not going to play the whole commercial on through, actually, but this is kind of what it would look like, right? So right here, people who are riding on actual trainers from their homes right now, battling it out all against each other to try and take the W here in this KISS race out on the London course that Zwift has made, actually. So we've got Phillips and Young here off the front from Innovation Cycling, both coming out of the UK here. Wales and England flag, they're being represented here. Moto trying to chase it down out of the US of A right now. And it looks like Dreisen here 3 seconds back, was caught by Motor, but goes right on by, though, so it doesn't look like that's going to be happening for him on the day. A little bit more social media integration now. As you can see, helping to let us know he thinks this is a cool idea. Says, that's class 2, great idea and great experience for the guys riding at home. How long is each day time-wise? So I think he's talking about the what you're doing with the Tour de France. So I think it's about going to be right around, most days are around 50 minutes to an hour. Is that right?
About 50 minutes to an hour. I think I'd say 70% of the rides are going to be in around 55 minutes to 1 hour. I think the longest is about an hour and a quarter, an hour 20 maybe is going to be the longest. So a couple of 45-minute ones, but yeah, so it's going to be in around the hour.
So Kyle Augustine, actually the director sportif, the team manager over at Innovation, he's saying there's no love lost in Innovation. Phillips or Young for the win. So he says they're going to be sprinting it all out against each other, actually. So we'll have to see. What? I just got the Everest Challenge? What? My was that actually Phillips that got it, or did I get it? It just said that I opened up the Everest Challenge. Wait a second here. But I already had the Mount Everest Challenge. I don't know what that's all about. I'm actually going to look for the replay on that in a little bit here. That was interesting. Just popped up across my screen. Interesting to see there. But anyways, Innovation says no love lost. They're going to be battling it out here. Matt Brandt says, Papa Python, no mercy, not even for teammates. Steve Young will win. That's a prediction. So, for the W here, will Motor catch him? He's on the TT bike, but he won't have a sprint. These guys are working together well. Is it going to be Young? Is it going to be Phillips? We're seeing Steve Young for the win coming from Matt Brandt. Phillips now kicking it, though, 11 watts per kilogram. I don't know. I'm going to go... I'm gonna throw it out there. I'm gonna say Phillips. I'm gonna go with Wales for the win today. We'll have to see what's gonna happen. But Young's got some killer sprint as well. You know, I'm gonna give it to Phillips though. You got a prediction here for Steven? You don't know these riders at all, so maybe just off of heart rates we could look at here.
Let's go for the English, man. So they're on a roll of the World Cup, so let's go for the English.
There we go. Yeah. Go for the English. Oh, Phillips pops an aero power up early. He doesn't want to sprint. He wants to get away. I think he knows that Young is actually maybe the stronger sprinter. So Phillips with the aero power up super early, 6.2 watts per kilogram. Young just like, dude, you ain't going nowhere. I'm sitting right on that wheel, and it looks like the advantage of the aero power up is completely going into the legs of Young, actually, rather than into an advantage of any seconds for Phillips here. You might be right. The English might be able to take this here. Young looks like he might be able to win this sprint. I think Phillips has already put all of his effort into just leading this thing out at 32 miles per hour right now. Phillips on the front here, absolutely killing it, and Young just sitting in the wheel, just saying, yeah, dude, you can go all day long, but you're not going anywhere. It looks like he's going to come around. Well, maybe not. 183 beats per minute. Phillips continues on. 192. This is a serious effort here. Maybe just ride him off his wheel.
Yeah, that would be impressive. But you still got, Dreisen there sitting at 5.5, 6 watts per kilo, 5.7 watts per kilo there. So, I mean, he's pretty consistent coming in. He was 10 seconds down.
Yeah, it looks like here, though, Young was sitting in with an aero power-up. Phillips had blown it way too early. Knew that he had to get away, but it will be Young for the W here now. 12 watts per kilogram coming from Young. Absolutely demolishing this effort here for Team Innovation, and takes the W here. Phillips now, he's got the KOM on as well, though, it looks like. Motor here about to come across the line. Doesn't look like Dreisen was going to be able to catch him. He'll be taking third place on the day, 5.6 watts per kilogram. Dreisen there, 5.8, it looks like, 24 seconds back. We will have a pack sprint here in just a moment, actually. Motor across the line there for third on that TT bike. That's actually really impressive. To be on that TT bike all the way through and not get a draft at all, super impressive effort there coming from Motor.
Rather you than me.
So now we do have the pack sprint here. Terman now leading it out 7 watts per kilogram. We'll be waiting for those aero power-ups. There's one coming from Root Riders there. Mueller now, as you can see, hammering away at about 10 watts per kilogram. A little bit of a kick from him, but it's going to be Kalen now as well with an aero power-up. Will he be able to get around him now? 16 watts per kilogram coming from Mueller, though. The Root Riders is able to pull this off, it looks like, with Kalen second place. Norden, a little late on that kick there, it looked like, as he did have about 12 watts per kilogram left in the legs, but was unable to pull it off there. Gannon there from BRT about to cross the line. Looks like their last one through for the A racers. All right, well, I think that's going to be it for our coverage of the KISS races today. Let's take a quick look at we'll take a look at the replays as we exit out from here. See if we got any more questions or comments here coming through from the rest. Adam Zimmerman in the house. Good to see you. 2 CVR chaps in the house. Good to see you there, Adam. Great to have you here. Zimmerman, man, good to see you in the broadcast. We didn't have any draft though in the race. What's going on here? No team draft in the race. What's going on? I guess I'm a bit late. Lionel, good to see Lionel as well. CVR champs hanging out. You follow any of that at all, Steven? CVR, KISS Racing.
Yeah, CVR Racing. Yeah, I have. Yeah, right, I have. It's doing great stuff over there with even the prize money and everything.
Yeah, but that's something to talk about as a pro racer. I mean, I'm looking at that. I raced mountain bike professionally for a long time, and our prize pools were like that. Like they were tiny. Like what the heck? I mean, it's a whole new world out there. It seems like with the esport meets real sport thing going on.
Yeah, and I think it's only going to get more and more like that. Just with obviously technology, like us talking here, with the world's getting smaller, how we interact with each other is getting different, but I do think, not from a CVR perspective, but I think from a professional cycling perspective, it's a shame that it's not being reflective in the guys racing across cobblestones or whatever it is day after day, and they're coming home with a couple of €1,000. Yeah. So,
it's a difficult situation, though. I can understand from an organizer's and a promoter's point of view, though, as well, because the costs to put on a race situation like that across the cobbles is huge, right? And look, what do? We turned on a camera, and we got the whole environment right here. The cameras are all right here on the keyboard. I mean, the reality of esports and what they can get done and the kind of shows that they can put on is this whole meeting of sport and entertainment in a whole nother way that's really, really innovative.
Absolutely. And you're talking about the cost of putting on a race. I was involved with the Giro d'Italia that came here to Northern Ireland in 2014. I was the technical director for the event for a couple of years. So I suppose I've real life experience in the cost that these things are associated with to run a large scale event is just millions and millions and millions of euros, and it then takes away potentially from the revenue that riders can be made or the teams can be made.
Exactly. So that's why you see the struggle so often, I would think, within the teams too, because there isn't the same kind of support structure. I mean, in football or footy with you, or here American football or basketball, you have an arena. The arena generates funds. Yeah. There's all this like local stuff that can go on with merchandising and all, but in cycling it's very difficult, and I think we're opening up. We're just starting to see this can open up of like, whoa, there's a whole different world of potential, because you just talked about millions.
I think the Hammer.
Go ahead.
The Hammer series, I think, is trying to really do innovative stuff regarding that, and trying to make a hub for racing, trying to make it short. You could actually make it quite comparative to what it is on Zwift. You've got, the flat course, you've got the hilly course, you've got, different types of racing in relatively short stages compared to what they would normally ride on. And, the revenue generated there is directly for the teams. So it's a completely different type of event, basically, for the teams. So I think that's why they're quite supportive of it.
That's really cool, actually. Yeah, that's a great idea.
So they've got in a Hammer series, they've got the chase.
So the teams. I mean, the teams are so integral to whether or not this happens. So they end up having, having a part of the share of how this all ends up going down.
Absolutely.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Absolutely. But what you got to remember is, a race like the Giro d'Italia or Tour de France or whatever it may be wouldn't happen without the teams. So if you take the teams away because they ain't got no money, you're not going to have a race. So albeit the costs are very high to run these sorts of event, if you don't look after the teams, there ain't going to be a race. So I don't think it's obviously not going to come to that, but you can see where the frustration is from the team side of it. So
I just got called out for cheating. I don't know why I was doing 283 watts out there. Just so you guys know, if you do ever see this and I'm a part of a race, this is the watchers. You have to have a watcher out on course so you don't lose the race. Just so you guys know, I didn't mean to have the 4-3 there at all. I apologize if that messed with anything whatsoever. I did not mean that. I thought I'd set it to the 100 just sitting there. But and Nab here now about to cross the line in the B category. We happen to be hanging out a little bit longer. So we'll catch the end of this race. There'll be a little bit of sprint here in just a moment. We are seeing 4.0 watts per kilogram. Dick's here now, it looks like, along with Mosback from Vision Cycling. And WBR are going to battle it out, but Nab was able to get away out of France, it looks like. So one last time, though, let's Stephen, your whole Tour de France virtual tour. We had Stephen on mainly to talk about what he's doing with the Tour de France in conjunction with the Tour de France out on Zwift. They are doing events every day of the tour. Nice little sprint here from Nab, actually, going across the road. And nice job there. Now Mosback and Dick's about to battle it out. But he's going to be doing every day. You're going to ride these every day, Stephen? Is that right? Just maybe. Okay, yeah. Maybe. I think he said he's after. Oh, no, a dropout from Mosback. Real Country has a real dropout. Too bad to see.
Oh, no.
Oh, Oops. Man. GG. Game over.
We're off.
Yeah, he actually he didn't just wobble. He just fell off. He just fell off.
He just fell off. Yeah.
What is that?
I've done that.
It's good stuff. But you can head on over to digdeepcoaching.com. You can see the program. You can sign up, put your email in over there. But you can also see the events every single day out on Zwift, and they're going to be around 12 Central Time, I think, 6 p.m. UK time.
Yeah, something like that. Okay. Yeah, about so weeknights is going to be UK time, Europe time is going to be around 6 o'clock in the evening, 7 o'clock in the evening, and then on weekends it's probably going to be morning times on the weekend stages, so it's going to be 9 o'clock in the morning UK time. But we also have
live streaming some of this, I believe, with Zwift, as well as we'll do some stuff with him here on Zwift Community Live, as well as with his Dig Deep Coaching. So a lot of places to follow. Go check out Dig Deep Coaching. Obviously, Zwift's Facebook. They might be doing some stuff with it as well. And then we'll have some stuff here on ZCL, I believe. We're still working out the details. I just picked up on this yesterday. I didn't even know that this was going on until Yesterday, actually, Carissa brought it up before the weekly windup, so we were able to feature it. And I contacted Steven, and bam, this is awesome. It's really cool, a concept. I absolutely loved it when we were talking about it yesterday. To be able to get some of the experience while you're watching the Tour de France. And what they're going to experience in what they're putting out for in relative to your FTP, it's all based. All the workouts are based on your FTP, so you get to experience then, because they're going to be putting on efforts in the Tour de France, right? And then that you can see based on their FTP, we just transfer that over, right, based on your FTP, and then you can do the same kind of percentages that you're seeing in the race there. So you get to kind of experience a little bit of like, oh, this is what those crucial moments are like in the Tour.
Yeah, and I think it's a good way for us to, communicate and talk about the Tour as well. And we can obviously make it relative to the effort and intensity that we're doing. But there's going to be lots going on during the Tour de France and around it, and I think it's going to be a sweet time to discuss what's going on, as well as riding our bike and kicking our own asses. So. Yeah, it'd be good.
Yeah, for sure. And we are getting a question here real quick. Oh, ZP returns tomorrow, Racing Mike says, with a laugh. Maybe he's just joking. We'll have to see. Roger's saying, is it using workout event module? It is using the workout event module. Yes, they are actual events in Zwift that you can join. They are actual events in Zwift that you can join.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We don't have results. Go ahead. Go ahead, Stephen.
Sorry, I was just going to say, we have a sign up. If you go to our Facebook or Instagram or our Twitter, you can sign up. We've got a virtual race manual that details all the stress scores. It details the durations, the intensities, and the role that you'll play on each stage. So you'll get a download. We're also giving information every day during the Tour de France. We're putting out lots of content, what's happening in the Tour. We'll be sending out our analysis from the Tour de France, the stuff that we're doing with Training Peaks and all the other. So you're going to be first to get all of that. And so we're, there's a whole big community being built around it. So, sign up and you'll get all. You don't need to sign up, obviously, to join the event. But if you want to keep in touch with what's going on and get some data and manuals and bits to help you through it, sign up and you get a couple of nifty wee PDFs and stuff.
Here, actually, let's
help
out with that. Let's just help out with that, and let's make sure that everybody knows where to go. So I have up here, guys, real quick. This is digdeepcoaching.com/GT2018. Okay, is your socials linked here? I'm not seeing them right now. But then obviously Dig Deep Coaching, you can go find, this is the logo here, guys, so you can recognize it. And, in Association Grand Tour, you can find the information here. I signed up. I'm getting emails all the time, on this specifically, this event already. So really cool. Great job by Steven and the rest of Dig Deep Coaching. So, all right. We need to get Zwift actually up in here, but there we go. Zwift's back up. All right. So that'll be it from us today. Kiss Racing. I wish I had results for you guys, but ZP is not up. I'm told that ZP is supposed to be back really soon. Okay, so Racing Mike. Yeah, okay, gotcha. Unless JH. Okay, gotcha. So hopefully tomorrow we'll be able to, next week we'll be able to have some racing results for you. Steven, I appreciate you joining us. Great having you here. Man, your race analysis and your experience was really great to have. I think everybody really appreciated it. Maybe we can have you back more for some more commentary like this, or stuff obviously during your virtual Grand Tour. Really
that'd be cool.
Here.
That'd be cool. Yeah, absolutely.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Yeah,
Enjoyed
no worries. Have a good night's sleep. I know it's getting late over in Ireland, so cheers, Steven.
See ya.
All right. And that was Stephen Gallagher, as well as the Kiss Racing today, as our co-host. It was great having him here. Great job to all the riders out there in the race. We were able to cover the A and the B category finishes. I'm Nathan Garrett coming at you from Zwift Community Live. If you haven't done so already, head on over to our Facebook, our Twitch, our Mixer, our YouTube, whatever your favorite platform is. You can catch all things Zwift Community Live on those places. We will be back. I'm not sure exactly when. Sooner than I thought, I think. So I can't tell you when because I think there's things going on that are suddenly coming up. So we'll see you real soon. Make sure to hit the follow button on those places that you like to follow, where we will go, where we do go live, in order to know when we do go live. Turn on notifications, and you'll just know because we're live. All right, cheers, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, as always. And as always, right on.